Our efforts, our actions, they have the potential to create positive change, even in the face of adversity.
It's a message of hope and resilience. Another one, retaliation will bring joy only for a day. Patience and forgiveness will bring joy for life. Connecting to the power of forgiveness and long-term well-being.
It speaks to the transformative power of forgiveness. It's not about condoning wrongdoing, but it's about breaking the cycle of anger and resentment. It's about choosing peace and understanding over retribution. It's about cultivating that inner peace that leads to genuine happiness.
It's a reminder that our actions have ripple effects, and choosing compassion can create a more harmonious world. Another maxim. A nation should have 5 key elements: good health, good economy, harvest, happiness, and a strong defense. It connects that ancient wisdom to our modern ideas of national development.
It highlights those essential pillars of a thriving society. It recognizes that true progress encompasses not just material well-being, but also the well-being of the people, their health, their happiness, their security.
It's a holistic vision of national development, one that takes into account all aspects of human life. What about this one? Wealth is like a lamp taken into a dark room. It can eliminate the despair of darkness and poverty, highlighting the potential of wealth to create positive change when it's used wisely.
It reminds us that wealth is a tool, a resource that can be used for good. It can alleviate suffering, it can create opportunities. But it also cautions us against the dangers of greed, the pursuit of wealth for its own sake. It's a call for using our resources responsibly, ethically, for the betterment of society as a whole.
It's a reminder that true wealth is about more than just material possessions. It's about using our resources to uplift others and to make a positive difference in the world. Now let's turn to a figure who bridged the worlds of spirituality and social action, Swami Vivekananda.
Swami Vivekananda was a key figure in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. He revitalized Hinduism, introduced Vedanta philosophy to the West, and his message really focused on practical Vedanta, the application of these spiritual principles to everyday life and to societal challenges.
He was a pioneer of rationalism, of practical Vedanta,
Right.
emphasizing that bridge between spirituality and social action.
Exactly. He promoted education, social service. He was instrumental in setting up the Ramakrishna mission, which focuses on education, on patriotism, and on service to society.
He emphasized this idea of brotherhood, promoting unity and understanding between people of different faiths and cultures.
Right, and he was a strong advocate for rationality, for scientific temper. He challenged superstitious beliefs and encouraged people to think critically, to question dogma, to embrace a more rational and scientific worldview.
He saw this need to balance material progress with spiritual values, drawing from both Western and Indian traditions.
He recognized that true progress requires both material and spiritual development. He encouraged people to strive for both economic prosperity and ethical and spiritual growth.
What were his thoughts on religion?
Vivekananda made this distinction between institutional religion and personal religion,
Okay.
highlighting the importance of individual conscience, of ethical conduct. He believed that true religion lies not in blind faith or rituals, but in living a life of compassion, of service, of love.
He saw youth as these agents of change, and his ideas, they continue to inspire young people even today.
Absolutely. He believed that young people have the energy, the idealism, and the potential to transform society. He urged them to be bold, to be courageous, and to work towards creating a better world. His message of empowerment, his call for service, it continues to resonate with young people across the globe.
Now let's turn to a figure whose philosophy continues to shape our world today, Gandhiji.
Gandhiji. His philosophy, it's a tapestry woven from many threads. You see influences from Indian traditions, from Jainism, from the Bhagavad Gita, from Tolstoy, from Ruskin. He advocated for nonviolence, for truth, for love, as the means to achieve social and political change.
He had this really unique approach to achieving independence through nonviolence, truth, and love. It's incredibly relevant, even in today's world, but it's not always easy to apply, is it?
It's challenging. It requires courage, conviction, a willingness to stand up for what you believe in, even in the face of opposition. It's about transforming not just ourselves, but also our opponents through love and understanding.
His philosophy was really multifaceted, wasn't it? It had this holistic vision for both individual and societal transformation.
Right. It was about Swaraj, which means self-rule, but it went beyond just political freedom. It was about moral and civilizational upliftment. It was about individual responsibility and that need for inner transformation.
And then there's Sarvodaya, that concept of universal upliftment with its 4 key pillars: nonviolence, Swaraj, Swadeshi, and Sarvodaya itself. How does that relate to the challenges we face today? Things like globalization, inequality, even environmental issues.
It's a blueprint for building a just and sustainable world. It calls for a shift away from exploitation, from consumerism, from violence, to a world where everyone can thrive, where resources are shared equitably, and where we live in harmony with nature.
You also had those 11 vows. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Sure, they included things like Swadeshi, the use of local products, the removal of untouchability, the practice of bread labor. Nonviolence, of course, is a big one. Truth, non-stealing, self-discipline, non-possession, control of the palate, fearlessness, and equality of all religions.
They're powerful guidelines for both personal and societal transformation.
Yeah.
And they're so interconnected, aren't they? They create this web of ethical principles that reinforce each other, guiding individuals and communities towards a more just and sustainable way of life. And what about his 7 sins?
Those 7 sins, they were politics without principle, wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, commerce without morality, science without humanity, and worship without sacrifice. He saw them as these threats to individual and societal well-being. And they're so relevant today to issues like corruption, environmental degradation, even those ethical dilemmas in business and technology.
They remind us that progress without ethics can lead to destruction, that true progress encompasses moral and spiritual development alongside economic and technological advancement. Gandhiji's principles, they've been applied in contemporary movements for social justice, peace building, and environmental protection. How have they impacted these modern movements?
They provided a framework, they provided a moral compass for those who are working to create a more just and peaceful world. They've inspired countless individuals to stand up for what they believe in, to fight for equality, to challenge injustice, to protect our planet. They remind us that even small acts of courage and compassion can have a ripple effect, creating positive change that extends far beyond ourselves. His legacy is really about reminding us of the power of nonviolent resistance, of speaking truth to power, of living a life of purpose and service.
It's a legacy that continues to inspire hope and action. Now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about Jawaharlal Nehru. He was a key figure in shaping India's post-independence identity. He was influenced by Western liberalism and leftist ideologies, wasn't he?
Nehru's political philosophy was deeply rooted in democratic principles. He had a strong belief in democracy, in the importance of institutions, and a commitment to ethical conduct in politics.
He was really open to criticism, willing to acknowledge mistakes, a quality that isn't always seen in political leaders. It showed a commitment to transparency, to accountability, and to continuous learning and improvement.
Right.
And economically.
Nehru envisioned a socialistic pattern of society. He encouraged a mixed economy, one that combined elements of both socialism and capitalism. He focused on centralized planning and on land reforms, really aimed at reducing inequality and promoting social justice.
He was a staunch advocate of secularism, wasn't he? He believed in separating religion from governance, in promoting scientific temper and rationality over religious dogma.
Yeah. He believed that a secular state was essential for protecting the rights of all citizens, regardless of their religious beliefs. He championed scientific thinking, education, and a more rational approach to understanding the world.
He played a key role in international politics,
Yeah.
advocating for decolonization, opposing that superpower dominance, and really promoting peaceful coexistence.
He was one of the architects of the non-alignment movement, which sought to create a space for nations to chart their own course, independent of those Cold War blocs. He promoted the principles of Panchshil, which included things like mutual respect for territorial integrity, non-aggression, non-interference in each other's affairs, equality and mutual benefit, and peaceful coexistence.
These principles are still relevant today as we navigate a world marked by conflict and competing interests. Now let's move on to a figure who embodied compassion and selfless service, Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa, she dedicated her life to serving the poorest and most marginalized people in Kolkata. She really embodied those values of compassion, of empathy, of selfless service.
She founded the Missionaries of Charity. What was their mission?
Their mission was to serve those who were forgotten, those who are neglected by society.
She had this unwavering dedication to alleviating suffering, especially among those facing poverty, illness, and social exclusion.
Yeah, Mother Teresa, she believed in the inherent dignity of every human being. She saw the divine in everyone.
She was driven by deep empathy, by a profound belief in the worth of every person.
Absolutely. Her life's work was a testament to the power of compassion. It really shows us that each of us can make a difference in the world, through small acts of kindness, through service to others, and by standing up for those who are most vulnerable. She was a powerful reminder that love and compassion can transform lives. They can heal wounds. They can bring hope to even the most desperate situations.
Now let's move on to Amartya Sen, a brilliant economist and philosopher. He's made significant contributions to welfare economics. He focuses on addressing those challenges faced by the poorest members of society. What are his key contributions?
Amartya Sen, his work focuses on the well-being of people. He's known for his capability approach, which emphasizes that development should focus on expanding people's capabilities to lead the kinds of lives they value. So it's not just about income or resources, it's about giving people the freedom and the opportunities to choose the life they want.
He contrasts this with more traditional approaches, like utilitarianism, which focuses on maximizing overall happiness, or resourcism, which focuses on just distributing resources. What's the difference?
The capability approach recognizes that individuals have different needs and aspirations, that having resources doesn't automatically translate into well-being. People need the freedom to convert those resources into the things they value.
So it's about empowering individuals to live the lives they want to live.
Exactly. He also worked on something called basic welfare economics. Can you talk about that a little?
Sure. His work in basic welfare economics focused on evaluating economic policies based on their impact on the well-being of a community. It's about using economics as a tool to promote social justice, to reduce poverty, and to improve the lives of those who are most disadvantaged.
Right. And let's not forget his groundbreaking work on understanding the causes of famine.
He argues that famines aren't just about food shortages. They're often the result of social and economic factors.
Exactly. Things like inequality, unemployment, poor distribution systems.
So it's about looking at those root causes, understanding the systemic issues that contribute to these humanitarian crises.
His work on gender inequality is also incredibly important. He analyzed why the sex ratio was so skewed in some developing countries. He pointed to social factors like biased healthcare and limited educational opportunities for girls.
It highlights those deep-seated social norms and practices that perpetuate inequality and limit the opportunities for women and girls. And he's also known for his work on the Human Development Index, or the HDI, which measures development not just in terms of economic growth, but also in terms of life expectancy, education, and standard of living.
It broadened our understanding of development, moving beyond those narrow economic indicators to encompass a wider range of factors that contribute to human well-being. It recognizes that true progress is about improving the lives of people, giving them the opportunities to live long, healthy, and fulfilling lives.
It's a much more holistic approach to measuring progress, isn't it? It recognizes that development is not just about material wealth, but about human flourishing in its entirety. Now, let's shift gears a little and journey westward. We're going to explore the ideas of some influential figures in Western philosophy. Their insights into ethics, into justice, and into the nature of a good life are just as relevant today as they were centuries ago.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're ready to tie it all together now. We've got all this wisdom from Indian and Western philosophers, and it's time to shine a light on the ethical side of governance, of public service. Think of this as your toolkit for making ethical decisions, packed with insights from some of history's greatest minds.
We've traveled through all these different philosophical traditions, and what's really amazing is that they all come together on certain core values, especially the importance of virtue.
Yeah.
Whether it's Plato's four cardinal virtues, Aristotle's golden mean, or those ethical examples we find in the Ramayana and Mahabharata, they all seem to agree that good character is at the very heart of ethical leadership.
So ethical governance, it starts with ethical individuals,
Yeah.
leaders who have a strong moral compass.
Exactly. And along with virtue, we see this constant emphasis on justice, on fairness, and making sure resources and opportunities are shared equally. Thinkers like Kautilya, Rawls, even Amartya Sen, they all point to the importance of creating a society where everybody has a chance to do well.
Their ideas really give us a framework for thinking about public policy. It's not just about economic growth, it's about creating a society where progress benefits everyone and those who are most vulnerable are protected.
Absolutely. And this brings us to a key tension that keeps coming up in our discussions.
The balance between individual rights and the common good.
Right.
Some thinkers, they put individual liberty first, while others focus on what's best for the group.
Yeah.
How do we navigate that, especially when it comes to governing?
It's a tough one. It's about recognizing that individual rights aren't unlimited. Sometimes you need to limit those rights to protect others, or to make sure society as a whole is doing okay.
It's like freedom of speech. We all value being able to speak our minds, but there are limits, right? Like hate speech or inciting violence. In those cases, We might restrict that right to keep people safe.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance. Maximizing individual freedom without harming others or putting the common good at risk. This takes careful thought, weighing the consequences of different actions, making tough calls based on ethical principles.
Reason seems to play a big role in making those tough calls. Many of the philosophers we talked about, especially those from the West, really stress using reason to figure out what's right and wrong.
Thinkers like Socrates, Plato, and Kant, they argued that reason is our guide to what's morally true. It helps us move past our own biases and get to those universal ethical principles that should guide our actions.
But we also saw how some thinkers, those from the East, put more emphasis on intuition, compassion, even faith as sources of ethical guidance.
Yeah, like the Bhagavad Gita, right? It highlights dharma,
Hmm.
which includes duty, righteousness, and understanding your place in the universe.
What?
It suggests that reason might not be enough on its own. Maybe a more holistic approach, one that includes both our minds and our hearts, is needed.
It's about using reason alongside empathy, emotional intelligence, and a real understanding of human values.
Exactly. That's particularly important for people in public service. They often face tough situations where just being rational isn't enough to grasp the full ethical picture.
Another tough thing about public service is that sometimes your personal values clash with your duties.
Yeah.
Like when your own beliefs don't match up with the policies you're supposed to follow or the decisions you have to make. How do you deal with that and still keep your integrity?
That's a real struggle. The Bhagavad Gita, it offers some guidance. Remember Arjuna's dilemma on the battlefield. He's torn between his duty to fight and not wanting to kill his family.
Right.
It highlights how complex ethical decision-making can be in the real world. It suggests that we try to align our actions with our principles as much as possible, to speak up for policies we believe in, and to call out injustice or ethical violations when we see them.
So it's about finding ways to make a difference within the system, even if you can't always perfectly match up your values with what you're required to do.
Exactly. It's also important to remember you're not alone in this. Talking to mentors, colleagues, and looking to establish ethical codes can help you navigate these tricky situations.
We've seen this consistent focus on education throughout our deep dive, not just learning facts and skills, but shaping character, developing those ethical values.
Thinkers from different times and places like Plato, Vivekananda, even Amartya Sen today, they highlight how important education is for creating good citizens, responsible leaders. It's not just about filling our heads with information. It's about developing critical thinking, being able to reason ethically, and using what we know to make society better.
Education is like an investment in the future, not just for individuals, but for everyone.
Exactly. As we wrap up our deep dive into the world of philosophers and ethics, it's important to remember there's no one right answer to these dilemmas.
The beauty of philosophy is that it challenges us, makes us think critically, to see things from different angles. It gives us a whole set of ideas and principles that can help us navigate the complexities of life.
It helps us make choices that are more informed, more ethical.
It's been a fantastic journey, and we hope it's been thought-provoking for you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon so you don't miss any future episodes. We've got so much more to explore together. Until next time, keep diving deep.